Hey, what's up, y'all? You are listening to your Mental Matters podcast. I'm your girl, Molu, here today with a very special guest, Gia Peppers. And yeah, before I have Gia introduce, herself, of course, I just want to thank you for, joining. Thank you for, agreeing to be a part of this podcast. And yeah, for those of you guys who don't know, I have been, following Gia for a while now. She does a podcast called the Black Girl Podcast, and I love it very much. And yeah, a lot of reasons why I felt like I wanted to, invite Gia to come on to the podcast is because of things that I've heard her discuss on the Black Girl Podcast. And so, yeah, hi, Gia.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me, Molu. I did not want to interrupt your intros. I was like, let's be quiet till she's done. But it's nice to be here, and thank you for all the support of Black Girl Podcast over the years. And I'm excited to get into the talk today.
Yes, me too. And yeah, for those of you who don't know who Gia is, I mean, I do, and I'm sure a lot of people do. But for those of you who, are hearing of
Are
Gia for the
new.
first time, yes. Who
Yeah.
are you?
So my name is Gia Peppers, as we've said a million times by now. I'm an on-air talent, entertainment journalist, entrepreneur, creative, all, multi-hyphenate creator, if you will. Shout out to all the Black creatives that are listening right now. A believer, super big on faith and hustle and joy. Those are the things that I just love to talk about. And those are the spaces where I feel like I understand the most. And so I have been hosting and working on varying projects as a freelance journalist, really, for most of my career. And so you might have seen me, if you're from DC, I'm a DC native, DMV. Shout out to everybody from the DMV. Might have seen me as the in-arena host for the Washington Wizards. I was there for 4 seasons. From like 2014 to 2018, hosting every home game. So that was great. I love basketball, I love the NBA. You might have seen me hosting BET's Black Coffee with Mark Lamont Hill and Jameer Pond, or VH1's Black Girl Beauty, or varying segments that are airing all the time, some places. Or I also launched a new podcast with Urban One Radio called More Than That, which is an incredible show that I am so excited that it's still like making its way through the airwaves, but it is on the radio and it's available everywhere you stream podcasts. And then, yes, I've been a part of Black Girl Podcast, 1/5 of the Black Girl Podcast since for 4 or 5 years now. And so we have incredible conversations there, and kind of just, it's our place to reveal and revel in and explore the messiness behind Black girl magic and the realities that we're all facing, in hopes that people hear themselves and realize that they're not alone, or Black women realize that their thoughts and their struggles matter just as much as the magic that we are consistently challenged to create. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. Me in a nutshell. I'm a daughter, a sister, somebody's future wife. Shout out to somebody's son, whoever listening. But somebody's future mom. But like, mostly a millennial who is here to live every single dream that I have, that I can think of. And so yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, and thank you for that um, intro.
Yeah.
Yes, and so yeah, we can get into it.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So the first question I have for you, we incorporate this in every episode. It's just a mental health check-in. Currently, how's your mental health?
My mental health today is great. I had a good, crazy weekend where I have a lot of my like high school boyfriend and I or don't really speak like that, but like I was around him a lot because we have mutual friends this weekend, and just like facing some of the trauma that's still underlying there was overwhelming at times, but also therapeutic. And I ran into some people from my past that like just affirmed me in so many different ways. And it was really cool. So it was like a hard weekend, but it was a good weekend. It was a beautiful weekend. It was a necessary weekend. And even watching like Mary J. Blige's new documentary and hearing her say like, I had to love on and accept every version of who I was and understand her. And at one point she even said, like, she was looking at a younger picture of herself. Like she was looking at an interview of herself where she was like this kind of like mean, younger lady who was just trying to be tough. She had PTSD from growing up in the project. Like she was just trying to figure out her life. And she said in the interview, like, they were, I think they asked her, like, how do you feel watching it? And she was like, I feel fine. That's my baby. That's me. That's my love. I understand her. I love her. Like, and so even just hearing that kind of helped me go into the different spaces where I was like, I'm not as, I haven't been on this earth as long as Mary J. Blige, but I do understand that, like, every single iteration of me, I have to not only accept, but revere and love and respect and hug sometimes when she comes out before the more mature version of me does, or she feels away. And I have to be like, girl, it's all right, baby. We look, now it happened and we gonna heal, and I'm here and I got you right now and you're fine right now and we are good right now. And and you can cry here and it is fine. Like you kind of have to talk to yourself in a way that kind of heals you from every aspect. And so I had a great weekend today. Yesterday it was like one of those, like, it was almost like a hangover. So I definitely gave myself rest and kind of moments to just back away if I needed to. But today I feel great about how it all happened and what happened and just moving on.
Absolutely. I love that. I mean, not to get too personal and in your business, are you okay with sharing, like, because I know you mentioned like some traumas from the past that being around your ex-boyfriend kind of brought up for you? In a way, are you okay with sharing, like, I guess, what was coming up for you specifically? And yeah, and how were you able to like navigate as to where, like, whether it's to get yourself into like a better headspace, like what were you in the moments where the trauma was coming up, where you felt it, where started to think about it, like what did you do?
Yeah. Out of respect for everyone, I'm gonna keep it very vague and at top motions, top level. But I think just because I don't know that we will ever speak, but I don't right now, it's just probably not the time to do it. But because I don't know who listens and who does not listen, and I don't want no issues coming out. But I do think the biggest takeaways I've had from this weekend were that there were moments in our saga where it was like I could either have this love or I could have this career. And I think part of me from the 16, 17, 18-year-old version, however old I was, that kind of, like, when we started deteriorating, kind of believed it. Like, even if I didn't consciously believe it, I believed it subconsciously, to the point where I noticed certain parts of me had shut down, as far as like the romantic parts, as far as the loving parts, because no one ever, when you get far enough into your career, people only really like try to tap into one part of you. And it sucks because when you're a public person, people only see one side of you and they don't give you a lot of time. I won't say all people. That's why it matters to have people who don't care about what you do in your life. But at times people only tap into that one part of you and they don't give you the space to be a full human being. And so I noticed that I had built some walls up around my heart, and I don't want those to continue to stop me in creating more romantic and loving relationships in my life with a partner, a man that I can really trust and build with. And I think part of that healing really happened this weekend, where I was able to forgive myself. I was talking to someone, I can't remember who said it, Jesus, and they were saying, we make promises, well, like, sometimes we hold on to the promises that we made in little things, like the little agreements we make with ourselves, like when we're younger. We don't realize that they still are there. Like, we never broke off that agreement. We never said it was okay to go. And so I forget who I was talking to, and now I'm so angry because that was such a beautiful moment. But not angry, but I'm gonna figure it out. But I was like, she was talking about how we are all grow and all move through our journeys, but at the end of the day, we do have to kind of like do a progress report and check in on some things to make sure that like those things still serve us. And she was like, yeah, I even had to go back to some of my ex and past relationships and break the agreements that I made with myself and let go of the promises that were with that person, because I little did I know was holding on to promises deep down that literally weren't going to happen anymore. Like at some point you have to move on. And so I think I also was facing the promises, facing all those things and just letting it realizing that it is completely not a thing anymore and being okay with moving on and the pain of that and all those things. And we haven't been together in years, but it's just, I haven't seen that side of, my life in a long time. And so I was just like, oh, okay. Here we go. This is it. This is it. I haven't been this me before. Right. So I'm like, okay, now that I'm here and it's really here, let me deal with it. And so I think I had to audibly say to myself, like, you do deserve both an incredible career and a game-changing, life-altering, incredibly deserving, like reciprocal, beautiful, all the things, strong, unconditional love, like that you can have both, you will get both. Because I think sometimes you just need to hear yourself say it. Sometimes it has to come through you and you just got to get in the mirror and say, speak some life over yourself. And so, yeah, I think me and like teenage Gia had quite a weekend together where I was just very like, it's okay. It's all right. And the lie that you are like, that's the fear of that lie is starting to make you super emotional. And that lie we are not buying into anymore. It's just not true. It's going to come for you when it's your time.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't even got to add nothing to that. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, there were so many points. I was just like,
yes. Yeah. Like it's real. Like, I think the best thing I did for myself in the pandemic was sign up for therapy and started virtually in March of last year, maybe April of last year. And that has just really been a help, even though all of my therapy sessions have been virtual. Like it's been great to have a therapist to just kind of like talk you through things and give you language behind what you're feeling, because sometimes you have a million feelings and a million thoughts and you don't know what thought to throw away, what thought to hold on to, what thought to face and pick apart and interrogate. And so even just like giving myself that gift of checking in with how I feel, it has been a game changer for sure. So definitely think that the gym has probably come from a little bit of the therapy too, so that's been great.
yeah, no, absolutely. And can you talk a little bit more about that, like your journey with mental health and therapy? Because I know me from listening to the Black Girl podcast, which y'all should tune into because it's fire. That's I was able to kind of follow and hear about how, like, in the beginning, like therapy was something that wasn't really, you didn't necessarily think was like a good
Was
idea, or
scared.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like, can you talk about that, like that
Yeah.
journey to getting
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. I think when you grow up in a churched house or a Black women, strong place with, Black, when you grow up in a space where therapy is not the norm, and even in our culture, right? If you watch shows, if you watch Martin, the Parker, like all of them, they'll be like, "You want to do a shrink? Oh Lord, she gonna like, like it's a punchline, right? Like we have, I think our generation's greatest contribution to the fabric of the Black experience in this country will be our commitment to heal ourselves and heal the traumas that believe in, and not make therapy taboo and make it more accessible and make healing a bigger conversation and make it a little bit less of a punchline and more of a way to become your best self. I think our commitment to that is going to change a lot of things. Like we're going to raise more kids who have language behind their feelings and aren't necessarily thrown to the side because it's just too much to understand and deal with, right? Like I think we are going to be I don't know about how much softer, but a little softer when it comes to that. And so I think that's great. And so even like in the time that we've had the show, being a part of seeing how therapy changed my friends, like Beck started therapy while we were on the show, and I saw the change. Scotty was in therapy. She's been in therapy. She probably was the one that had been in it before all of us and was talking about that. And then Alicia, her transformation was incredible. And so I was just seeing my friends be healed and seeing my friends walk in the fullness of their power a little more. And I was just like, oh, so this is why it matters. So you can unpack and get there. And I think the thing that I was scared about the most was like, if I'm already a positive person, like, and I already know that, like, like I'm doing okay. I don't really want to pull the thread and a whole bunch of trauma falls out. And what if I can't deal with it? Right. And so I wasn't giving myself the credit of the track record of the fact that I will get through, that I have gotten through, and that, with God, family, and sometimes just a good cry, you can get through a lot of things. And then, with therapy, you really can find the tools and the methods to get there in a way that serves you best. And so at first I was just scared. I was just like, we don't do therapy. Like, you pray, you go to church, you read a Bible verse. That's what everybody been doing forever. But there's also been a lot of trauma that has been hidden forever. There's also been a lot of patterns that are passed down that are not necessarily the healthiest in all of our families, communities, whatever you want to call it. Like, when you don't face a trauma, it comes out in different ways. So I was just like, you know what? There are some things that kept repeating in my life, some patterns, some thought patterns. And I was just like, nah, I don't like that. We're not that girl anymore. Let's figure it out. Let's face it. And I think my healing became way more important than my need to avoid certain things for the help, for the feeling of remaining positive. And I think I learned a lot about toxic positivity too, where like, it's cute to be positive, and I think it's great to be positive. I'm actually a very optimistic person. I love optimism. I love hope. I love the feelings of joy and hope. And I think Black women especially, and Black people especially, have to challenge ourselves to stay in spaces of hope and joy, because we are always, we have been conditioned to look out for the shoe to drop, look for the thing to happen to make things go back to a struggle, just because we've seen it so much in our lives. And so, I think joy is important, but if you're going to feel painfully, then you have to feel joyfully, and you have to feel whatever you're feeling fully, because pain knocks us out so much. But in those moments when joy happens, we're like, no, it can't be real. I'm happy, but I ain't that happy. Like, I got dreams, not that many dreams. Like, and it's just like, nah, I'm dreaming right now. I feel great. Like, I'm going to say that and I'm going to own it. And so, but toxic positivity on the other side of that is like, if you're not addressing your feelings, you're not really doing any of the healing work. You might be positive, but you might be walking over the bridge of thousands of feelings and thoughts and incidents that, or maybe hundreds, that like really have started to cripple you as a person. At some point is going to come out, and it doesn't matter how many cute quotes we post and how many moments we make people laugh. It's like, you have to make sure that you are good, because you are the only person that knows what's really going on with you, as far as mental health goes. And so I guess I just got sick of acting like it was okay. And I think 2020 was that year for a lot of us, right? Like, when you take away the titles, when you take away the access to certain things, when you take away people's the crutches that people have built around healing and just how they show up in this world and identity, you got to just deal with who you really are. And a lot of people, like, especially me, and I know a few of my friends who I've talked to, like, a lot of pain was just sitting right there, and you were like, oh, okay, I never dealt with it. I tried to work it away, like Solange said. I tried to drink it away, like all the things. Like, you try to do all that, like cranes in the sky. Like, you try to do. I mean, I'm not really a drinker, but like, everybody has their things that they do away. I definitely tried to work mine away, and so when all the work was taken away, all you have is those things that you tried to ignore. And so, I think that 2020 was a horribly insane year, but it also gave a lot of people back to themselves. And I definitely felt like I gave myself back to myself. Aja Monet posted that one time, and that became my like tagline for the year.
Yeah. No, I love that. Everything you shared. I'm like, I had questions within it, but I feel like even as you were talking, you answered everything. It was just for sure. Because I'm like, I think what you were saying about like sometimes it spills out if you know that you need to go to therapy or should have been going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it can spill out in other areas, or sometimes there's a moment, there's like a nah, I need to go now.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I was gonna ask like what was that moment for you, but it
Yeah.
sounds like COVID, right? Like COVID
Yeah.
forced.
Sitting inside and
Mm-hmm.
like sitting inside and actually going inside of yourself and your thoughts, like literally not having anything else to do for most of the like you I mean usually before pre-COVID I was on a flight like every other week. Like I wouldn't know what my next 10 days would look like you just don't know. And when everything becomes um uh, fast and day by day your life is changing, it's easy to not tap in with yourself. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I've always done is journal. One of the things that I've always done has been very my family would always say, we know Gia needs her time, child. She's gonna go in her room and do her little thing. So like I've always been like that. I've always been a person that's like, I kind of need my space to just take up my own space. And as I
Mm-hmm.
started to give my energy more as a host and a talent, you kind of have to be even more intentional about that space because you give so much with your voice, with your presence, with your energy. And so one of the things that I like really wanted to make sure that I did spend time doing was finding ways to just get back to myself. And COVID, yeah, was that moment where you were like, well, I can't see my friends. I can't do nothing. I can't like I done tweeted everything I could tweet. I can post everything I can post. Like I done watched every Netflix show. Like let me actually get to it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how is therapy going for you currently?
It's good. Like I have to find a new therapist now because it just was getting crazy with like the scheduling and the canceling on both ends. And so I'm like looking now for a new therapist, but I love her. It's just like I can't when I go, one of my biggest things that I want to work on and continue to grow in is the space of consistency and discipline in my life. And so if the person that's trying to help me be consistent can't be consistent with scheduling, it just doesn't make sense. And so now I've been like interviewing new therapists. And so I'm like trying to feel people out because the first time I just chose a therapist because she was the one who followed up and she was great and I loved her. But like, I think now I kind of have to be a little bit more intentional. So I'm like interviewing therapists as if, they were, I mean, it is a job, right? Like, so
Yeah,
taking on, figuring out what that looks like for me.
absolutely. That's it. I always say like finding a therapist is like picking your eyebrow lady, or for a guy,
Mm-hmm.
whoever your barber is who gonna do
Right.
your
Your
takeoffs and
barber.
lineups. Yeah, it's serious. Or your nail tech, right? Your nail person. Like it's very you have to be selective, I think. But I feel like in there's some cases where you can just stumble upon somebody and they're great. Like I know
Yeah.
like for me, I went through my insurance to find my therapist. Like when I did have a therapist, I need a new one as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, I went through my insurance and I just knew like I wanted her to be black and I wanted her to be, a woman.
Yes.
And
You need
so
it.
yeah, and I was able to, she was really great. Like, like I definitely loved the experience with her. And so yeah, sometimes you get lucky, but I think it's important. Like I feel like it should be a responsibility for everyone. Like when, finally getting into therapy to really be selective and keep searching. Like if you find somebody and then you're not sure about it, you're not really sure if you vibing with them for real, like
Yeah.
keep looking because
Right.
there's so many.
Right. And I mean, the crazy part is, it's like there are so many, so it gets overwhelming where to start. But I love Psychology Today. I tried therapy for Black girls and I like that site too. But I also noticed from that site that like we done talked about therapy with Black girls so much that every therapist on there is not accepting not every therapist, but a lot of
Mm,
the therapists on there is not accepting new clients because
mhm.
everybody needs a therapist, right? And so it is a journey and it's not going to be easy, and sometimes that is discouraging to folks, but like I definitely recommend it. Like if you can spend an hour a week turning I don't know, tuning into Real Housewives of Potomac for your laughs, you can spend an hour a week really just letting everything out so you can get back to doing what you need to do.
Absolutely. And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
If I could give my younger self one piece of advice, I would say stop letting fear hold me back from showing up showing up for myself. One of the things, like when I was a younger kid, I was very like, I went to white schools during the day and then black activities at night. And so I was always very aware of my presence, my voice. But I always was critical of myself, way too critical of myself, and I didn't allow myself to like try. And when things got too hard, I would give up and just, think I was not worth it, or my self-esteem, wasn't really great. If I couldn't, my self-esteem was directly connected with how I performed. And instead of performing well, trying things when things went really hard, trying again and picking it up and starting again, I would just give up. And I was like, well, I'm clearly not just good at this. I'm just not good at this. It is what it is. And one of the things I would tell myself is not to be afraid to fail and not to be afraid to keep trying. Like Aaliyah says, first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. In like, for example, I grew up dancing, singing, acting. And so like, one of the things you're always doing as a young kid is dancing in a studio somewhere. So I went to the Jones Haywood School of Ballet in DC, and it's one of the first dance schools on the East Coast, like ever, to allow Black dancers to train. And so it's like has this beautiful historic meaning behind it. And so when I was younger, my mom put me in that dance school, and I had come from like the liturgical dance school before that. Like we started going there with my sister and I when I was like 10. So we had spent our years not really, not that liturgical dance is important, but it's not the same level of technique or methodology or attention to detail or expertise that brings that this school in particular really gave young women. And so we got there, and these girls are incredible. They have full personalities. They're funny. They're beautiful. They know these things, and I was just trying to fit in. And I didn't know how to do like, I was just learning. I don't know. I just know the basics. Yeah. And I noticed that little by little, I would only allow myself to go to the back of the class. Like I would never try to go to the front. I would never try to stand out. And I don't know when I decided to. I guess it was in college, maybe in high school, where I decided I could really stand out. But for those teen years, I was really always afraid to be in the front and always trying to fit into what I thought people would do. But I mean, that's a regular teenage thing. So I give myself grace in that aspect. But yeah, I would tell myself, like, girl, you are dope. Believe it, own it, love it, be it, go for it. Be nicer to your siblings. I would say that. I'd be like, girl, please just be nice. Stop being such a little bully all the time. I definitely made up for it. Now I'm annoying and they're like, all right, please. But when you're a teenager, you don't understand what's happening. You just like, why are you having my burger? I ate that. Eat that, like so. Right. So yeah, but that's what I would say. I would say stop letting fear hold you back and just go and try. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't mean it's not ever going to work. Just try, keep trying.
What does it look like when you don't water yourself? I recently I was listening to the consistency episode on the Black Girl podcast, and I loved what you talked about how you just you have like a reminder on your phone to water yourself today, or you shared the story about when you went out and how it turned into a whole group therapy thing. Yeah. But yeah, like what does it look like? I guess on both ends, what does it look like to water yourself, and what does it look like to not?
It looks like signing on to social media if I don't water myself and not believing that any of my work matters, and because everybody else is doing similar things. It looks like buying into like the lie that there is one person, only one life, and one lane, and one person that can make it, when that's just not true. It looks like it looks like spiraling, right? Like when you do deal with mental health, there, like, first of all, self-work is the hardest work in America. Like, don't let anybody tell you it's going to be a cute journey. It's not. And it's going to be hard, and you're going to want to feel like giving up sometimes, but that's why it's important that you do. That's why affirmations matter. What you say to yourself matters, because you can try and create a pattern and a practice of loving yourself. And so, when I don't water myself, I don't actively love myself. And that's something that I'm always trying to improve on every single day, because I want to love myself so much that I bring people love just by waking up, child. I just want to, be that much of a force for myself first. And then hopefully that spills over to others. But yeah, it just looks like a blob. Like I feel like a blob. I feel very like all over the place instead of in together and, mindful of my thoughts. And so when I do, I am happier. I am more consistent because I believe that I can actually accomplish something. I am more mindful of those thoughts that do come. And, like the 9:06 is what I do, 9:06 p.m. because my birthday is September 6th. And so even if I'm having like crazy thoughts, sometimes I forget that it's on, and it'll come and I'll literally say, oh my God, thank you, Lord, for this moment, because Jesus, I needed to say, Gia, I love you. I'm proud of you. I see you. You matter. You made it through today. I'm so proud of you. Like, keep going. Whatever I need to hear in that moment, I just say it. And so it just is such a good practice of just loving the life you are in right now, the moment you are in right now, the body you're in right now, the mind space you're in right now, the project you're working on right now, like just the moment. Because I think I'm also a very big picture person, and that's a beautiful thing. But the bad side of that is that I don't enjoy the moment. So I'm just like, okay, next. I was like, wait, do you remember when you did that? And I'm like, no. But now I'm trying to be like, oh, what a moment, what a day. And even like this weekend, one of the cool moments was I was watching the BET Awards at my best friend's birthday party. And we were watching it. And I was feeling FOMO because I didn't go this year. And it just didn't make sense for me to go all the way to LA when I would have to be back on the East Coast literally like that next like two days after. It just didn't make sense. Especially with the flights. And I wasn't even trying to do all that. I'm trying to save money. I'm also trying to be a whole adult now. I can't be acting stupid like I used to. And so, I was just like, dang, I wish I was there. Like I was watching, like, dang, everybody looks so nice. Dang, I wish I was singing Queen Sleep to that. And next thing you know, my face pops up while we're all watching. And like in the video, I'm like, yes, that's right, Gia. Because I needed to hear it for myself. I needed to say, Gia, yes, girl, you stupid. You over here feeling all upset. Like I feel like God really looks at me sometimes and is like, you honestly, Gia, I'm literally blessing you all the time. And you are so ungrateful. Like, please, ma'am, I'm gonna let you figure it out. I'm not gonna give you nothing else until you shut up and just realize how blessed you really are. Like you get to wake up every day and your lungs work. How about that? In this here COVID, your lungs work. You can taste food. How about that? How about you can walk outside and go get in your car and go somewhere? How about your parents are still here? How about your brother and sister are still here? How about your best friends are still here? How about, you do have an active, beautiful career? How about you don't starve for anything and you're a freelancer? How about that? Like, how about the blessings? Like tap into the blessings, the goodness, the gratitude that exists, the abundance that exists in every single day. Like there is something to be grateful for. And so Alicia does her gratitude alarm, and I don't know what time hers is, but she will just say like 3 things that she's grateful for. And she's like, it just helps so much. So whether you do a water yourself alarm, and it depends on, I think, what you're working towards. I think self-love is a big space for me where I want to see more improvement. So that's why the water yourself is really important to me. And my therapist recommended it. But if you are just one of those people that can't, that have trouble being grateful or being present, the gratitude alarm might be something to do too. So, just little things. Let your iPhone bless you sometimes. Let it do its job,
Put it to good use, okay?
Right.
Period.
You're going to be on Instagram scrolling.
Yes. No, I love that. I love that. And I think that's so dope too, because I was watching the BET Awards and I did see you up there. Yes. So that's dope. I think I'm a believer as well. I'm a spiritual being. I love God. I love Jesus. as well. So I think there's been so many times where I've experienced that as well. I mean, in different situations where I've been like, whether it's, I've been hard on myself, or I've just, you know, just didn't see how, like, I guess ungrateful I was being in a particular moment. And then God was just like, and I was like, ooh, you're right. I'm
Right.
wilding.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
yes, I
Something will
totally
happen.
understand that.
Yeah, something will happen. You be like, dang, I was really stupid. Like, my bad. Like, you just have to sometimes be like,
Yeah.
Lord, just thank you for loving me and my craziness, because I
Yeah.
really am a lot. Like, but you made me this way. So you knew, but
Right, right. Absolutely. That leads into the, next question. How important do you think spirituality is when it comes to overall wellness?
Oh, yeah.
Do you look at spirituality as separate from mental health and wellness, or would you say everything works together?
think I think that it all works together but it varies, right? Like, because what we have traditionally been taught in church is that God is, the healer of all things. And I truly believe that. I do also think that God uses people to help you heal. And I also think that in some space, like, that's why it was important to me to have a therapist who was also a believer, because in some spaces, those are your like on earth angels that are helping you work out different things through your life experience. And so I think that it is all connected. If you look at it in that way, I think I look at it in that way, because when I wake up in the morning and pray, I can speak through and understand what I'm feeling. Like, I can hear it for myself, but I can also give it to God and do my best to like move through life without worries, though that doesn't happen every day. I try, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then, like, sometimes you just need a good word, and that helps you feel back on track, and reminds you of your purpose and what you're here to do. And when I journal, I even journal to like, I journal mostly prayers, and I didn't realize it until I look back and I was like, oh my God, this whole time I've been talking to God. So, little things like that really make the difference. I think it's like a little of both, where it's like you decide what's bigger for you. But I think what really matters, and I want to make sure I say this right, you have to have a bigger reason why, because this life is really, really hard. Like, let anybody tell it, things get tough, things get crazy, things get scary. I mean, 2020 taught us that.
Yeah.
But I think that the reason why I'm able to move through entertainment and all these spaces is because I believe in a bigger power. I believe that somebody made me. I believe that somebody made my journey, wrote the destiny for me before I was even born. And I mean, it shows up all the time. Like, I posted, I think last year, like, it had been 30 years to the day that my dad had brought me into the newsroom when I was 2 months old and said I was going to be an entertainment journalist. And like, when I found that video, I legit just cried for a good 30, maybe 20 minutes. And I was like, I'm sorry, Lord, for every single time I tried to give up, because I wasn't listening to you. I wasn't listening and watching the path and all the things that are unfolding, because you gave this to me before I could comprehend that you gave it to me. I was 2 months old. My dad took me into a newsroom that he was working in and introduced me to everyone and said Gia said she wants to be a broadcast journalist. And now 30 years later, I have and am continuing to do that. And so, understanding that the trust is there, what God is bringing me through is always going to create something that I need, is what keeps me grounded in ways that I can't even deal, like in ways when I can't even deal, I know that I can go back to that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it is connected. I think it is like the God in you is very real. The Holy Spirit that exists in you, the greater is he that is in me than in the world, is really important. I think that we live in a world full of distractions, and sometimes the human condition can kind of override the God that is in you. And so sometimes, you do need that extra hour of prayer, do need that extra hour of therapy, because you need to remember who you are. And so I think this journey is all about becoming more of who God wants us to be, and becoming more of who we need to be, the best version of who we are. And I think that both looks like Jesus and therapy.
I love that. I love the way that you broke that down. I mean, I think that it's pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel the same way. I think, you know, and there are statistics, research that shows like people who are spiritual or do have that element, like they
Yeah.
believe in something,
Yeah.
you know, do experience more mental wellness.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, it just makes sense. I think, and just to your point of like, you know, God, um, just creating people, right? Like
Yeah.
to be able to help us in this life. And I think, you know, practitioners, clinicians, psychologists, you know, so I think, yeah, I agree with that. And I think, for sure, I think for me too, like if I didn't have both,
Yeah.
understanding of mental health, and my relationship with God, then I don't know if I would be as, you know, quote unquote solid. I have days where I'm not solid. I have days where
Yeah.
I'm all over the place, but I don't think I would be as, you know, just stable and
Yeah.
solid in who I am as a person, to be able to navigate this life, because this life is crazy. Like especially we've seen with COVID. I just feel like I'm just like sometimes I'm like, wow, I'm still like level headed. I'm still sane. Okay, cool.
Thank
All right,
God.
cool.
I
Like
agree. Like,
it's
thank God, because I
yep.
we know it could be different. I'm like, oh, I could be crazy today. I really do not want to be crazy today. Let me just go ahead and figure it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How has being a Black woman in the media, in the industry, affected your mental health? Do you find it hard to do what you do?
Mm. I was being a Black woman. Oh. I think the one time where it affected my mental health, being a Black woman in particular, is when I had the whole moment with Black Girl Beauty, and a lot of people were upset about a question that I asked um, on the show, and it was like all of a sudden the people that like I had found community in, some of the people that I had found community in were trying to cancel me, trying to get me to be out of here, and all those things. And it was such a shock to my system. Like I was just like, oh, like where did all this come from? What is happening? I thought this was a colleague. I thought this was a friend. I thought this was a supporter. I thought this was the person I had a rapport with. And in those moments when you are there and moving through things, you're like, oh, okay, it's not all what it seems. And it's not as bad as what it seems, or it's not as good as what it seems. You just kind of have to like let the moment pass. And after that, I noticed that I had like PTSD from like a, online attempt at dragging or whatever. Like it didn't get super crazy, but it definitely got crazy enough to where certain people were reaching out like, yo, are you okay? And I think the biggest takeaway from all that was just like, you are going to, in this arena, everybody's day is going to come. Like it doesn't matter if you are the greatest, nicest human being. When they started dragging Oprah, I was like, oh. And they started dragging Auntie Gail, I was like, oh. Like it is one of those things that is going to come, and you have to learn and take what it is that you need to take and go forward, right? Like I really stopped tweeting for a long time. I stopped saying what I wanted to say because I questioned everything. I questioned every part of my voice. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to talk to people who are kind of supportive of me. Like at the end of the day, what I say is going to reach the right people, and I hope it doesn't offend anyone. And if it does, I have to learn. But I'm not going to give up on myself or my voice or my aspect because of dozens of tweets that from people who do not know my journey, who do not know that I work extremely hard, that I've always tried to move with integrity, that the intention of the moment was completely misconstrued within the intention of the show was completely misconstrued from a 5-second clip, even though we had filmed over 30 hours of content. The shows got down to 20 minutes. And, one of the things that I wish that I learned from that situation was never, I don't care if we are in the midst of a high flying set that's coming out the sky, I will stop down if I do not understand the fullness of the story. And sometimes you get so caught up in just making sure that the set day runs that you don't want to ask things. You don't want to double check on certain things because you just trust that what the producers gave you is fact, right? Like you trust that their research is great. And so I had done my own research on like all of the topics on the show, but we were doing 6 shows, three shows over 2 days. And so I think this was the last show, one of the last shows, and I was so tired I didn't even get to do the extra due diligence to find out about what, you know, what the show was, what this one question of the show was about. And so one of the things I learned was like, I don't care what happens again, I am the person that's going to say what it is, and people will feel away and do whatever they have to do. But at the end of the day, if it's my voice and my face, I have to understand what I'm saying. No one's going to be like, oh, the producer set her up. Like, no, it's never that deep. But I also realized who my real friends were and who the people who were just here for the likes were, right? So everybody has to realize that the internet is such a weird place sometimes. It's a beautiful place to find community, cultivate community. But that same community, sometimes the people who really not riding, they will tear you down. And it is what it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I don't know if you're comfortable with sharing what the question was. I'm not familiar with that situation. Mm-hmm. And for the listeners too who may or may not be familiar.
Yeah.
Are you okay with sharing what the question was that was asked?
It was just about like the mislabeling a founder of a creator of a word that that I really don't even care about anymore. But it was just like that. It was like something about like, oh, you created this word, didn't you? And then the girl answered like, no, I didn't. And it was a whole thing. And it was just like, it was so frivolous in the moment. But the girl who did actually, and I won't say frivolous, I don't want to say that. It was so tiny that I didn't even notice that could have had the implications that it did have. But the girl and I have talked and we're cool. Like it's no biggie. Like I kind of just, you know, I'm glad that she's doing all the great things she's doing and I'm doing all the great things I'm doing. And yes, we will continue to be great because God said, look, you got me that nobody can stop. So, you know. But yeah, it was a learning lesson, honey. Like, again, we all gonna get there. When I seen them try to drag Issa over not using condoms, Lena over anything she does, like, it's just like, oh, okay. No matter what happens, you are damned if you do or damned if you don't. So in this day and age, there's always going to be people who like what you do or hate what you do. There's always going to be some people to like do that. And sometimes, and most of the time, you can learn something within it, right? Like you can learn about yourself and you can learn to take away like I did. Like I was like, oh, okay. Never again will I go on a set and not understand what I need to do and know. And so that's pretty much, you know, the spiel, the overall spiel.
Do you think that's heightened? Like, I mean, because as women, I feel like, you know, that's bound to happen in the media. But like, do you feel like as a Black woman, it's even more heightened, or do you feel like it's?
Oh, for sure. I mean, Black women are the most. It seems like the people who only really get canceled, other than like, you know, the predators and the people who actually deserve to be canceled and who have harmed people, are Black women. Like people cancel Chrisette Michele, and I hated what she did, but I love Chrisette Michele, and she's so talented, and she legit has been canceled, right? Like, I mean, she's still doing incredible things, but like, you know, it's not in the same vein that she was doing it before. So like, it seems like it only ever really works for Black women. And I think as Black women, we even have to be a little bit more mindful of how we do drag women, because we the best at everything. Okay. We the best at shade, we the best at inspiring, we the best at business, with all of it. We are also the best at dragging people. And so we just have to be mindful to like really interrogate a situation before we bring someone down. I was not going to drag the girl. I was not, and I'm not going to drag a woman. Like the only time you will catch shade on my page is if I'm watching Real Housewives, because that is this is how it goes. But like, I don't believe in tearing people down while they're being dragged by everyone else, especially. And if it's someone I know personally, I'll reach out and talk to them. But I think it's really important that we stay mindful that our voices and what we say matters on both ends, whether you are the canceler or the cancelee, and to learn how to give people space, because the one thing that I would really hate is if everybody just kept throwing human beings away when they make a mistake. And
Right.
that's what I really don't want to see.
So for our final segment that we incorporate in every episode is the affirmation segment. So what is the affirmation that you live by, that you is like your go-to, that lifts you up when you're feeling down, like if you're in a weird space mentally, helps you to kind of see the light and to get back to
Yeah.
homeostasis? What would you say, an affirmation, a quote, a
Yeah.
scripture?
Yeah. I've always, my quote for 2021, yeah, 2021. Yeah, geez. I think, yeah, 2021 is Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his plans and purposes. I think when so many things happen, on a daily basis as a freelancer, you don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes it can hit you in your chest, like give you that gut punch, and you're like, whoa, oh, I thought that was going to go through for me, or I thought that was going to happen. I thought that was going to change everything. Thought that was going to be the call. I thought that was going to be the deal. And I've had a few of those, really hard moments in my career. And I think I had to, for my own sanity, decide that all things work together for the good, and really understand that, like, this is not a journey that I'm on by accident. This is not a field trip that I'm going on and it's going to wrap up soon and I can get away from it. This is my life. This is my journey. This is actively my training ground to become who God needs me to be. And so as I grow and learn more about who I am and whose I am, and how I show up in these situations, I've had a lot of tests, if you will, to make sure that, like, I really believe it. Like, I know that God be like, you said you trust me, right? All right, tap into that trust. And so I feel my feelings, but when I really know I need to get it back online, when I really know I need to get back together, I will say, Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of those who love me. And then, even like I lack nothing, like, those affirmations. And I often say I'm still capable and worthy of my wildest dreams. And I think the capability part is really important, because capable means that that you have what you need, that you have the talent, the gifts, the skills, and now you just need to utilize them and believe in that enough to make it happen. And so, yeah, I think those are like the affirmations. And other than also then what's for you is for you, like really understanding that is that kind of goes with Romans 8:28, but just always understanding that, because again, we live in a time where we're consistently given access to over, how many people you follow, hundreds, thousands of people you follow within 2 seconds. And I don't know how that is going to affect our psyches in the long run. I will be watching when, those studies start coming out about what millennials, the first generation of millennials who had internet, social media accounts, how that affected their psyche. But I think we just have to be more active in our intentionality and the practices that we have for our wellness, self-love, because we just have so much access to people's energy all the time. And that's just never happened before in the history of humankind. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important that we navigate everything we do, because social media is such a big part of our lives. Like, I love it when people are like, I don't have social media. I'm like, you're so cool. Tell me about your life. Because, it is just such a powerful energy. And so, yeah, I think just being mindful of that, and Romans 8:28 is always in my heart, at the top of my heart.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And thank you so much for everything you shared, for joining. Please let the listeners know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and anything that you have going on or upcoming.
Yeah. So you can follow me on all socials at Gia Peppers. I just relaunched my website, giapeppers.com. You can check it out and see, all of that I'm doing. You can find the newest episodes of Black Girl Podcast and the new episodes of More Than That. I also just launched a special episode that I did with Erica Campbell for my YouTube series, Give You the Game. Part 2 will be coming out tomorrow. So go check out my YouTube at Gia Brittany. I need to find a way to change that, but for now it's at Gia Brittany. And just continue to support and continue to love on yourself. That's all I really want. I just want people to love themselves and love the people around them, love their lives. in their journey. And I hope that my content, whatever content I create or am a part of, is always returning people back to themselves and like the greater versions of themselves, the greatest iteration of who they can be. Because I think that is the most beautiful thing to watch. It's like when people are just who they are, walking in their purpose. And the more we can do that, I think the better this world will be, for real. As cliche as it sounds, I really do believe that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yay. Gia Peppers, guys, your Mental Matters podcast, and we are out.
Yeah.